This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. So President Trump and his war of words with the socialist Spice Girls continues in both directions with the ladies on CBS this morning with Gayle King. First Trump yesterday, after taking questions, or upon taking questions, after a cabinet meeting from the D.C. press corps.
Yeah, nobody cared about anything but this question that they asked.
No, they didn't want to.
I mean, they didn't even know why they were there. They just needed to ask about, are you racist? Do you still mean it? Should go back to their countries?
Right.
Mr. Trump, are you willing to not use the phrase "go back to your country" to citizens and women of color who are either citizens or have been born in this country? Would you be willing to not use that?
I think it's terrible when people speak so badly about our country, when people speak so horribly. I have a list of things here. I'm not going to bore you with it because you would be bored. You wouldn't write it anyway. But I have a list of things here said by the congresswomen that is so bad, so horrible, that I almost don't want to read it. It's so bad. I think what you do is you have the same list that I do. You should repeat some of that. When the Democrats didn't want to mention the name of the congresswoman, not so long ago, and what they did and the way they're treating Israel is a disgrace. But not only Israel, it's what they say about our country. It's my opinion they hate our country. And that's not good. It's not acceptable. Thank you very much, everybody.
That list keeps getting additions, even just this weekend from Ayanna Pressley and others, but the ladies on CBS.
Yeah. But, he doesn't like us. We don't like him.
And so if he doesn't like us, then that means he doesn't like Minnesota. That means he doesn't like the people of Michigan. That means he doesn't like my constituents in the Bronx and Queens. That means he doesn't like the Americans who sent us here.
So
I think she's kind of taken that out of context a tad bit.
Well, so being a congressman from Michigan or Minnesota is not being a representative of the entire state, number one. Including being a representative from the Bronx is not being a representative for the entire state of New York. I don't know how to break it to her. Number two, those elections weren't unanimous. And number three, you've got one of your band members there who is in trouble in her district in Minnesota. Her name is Representative Ilhan Omar. And, maybe you guys can still pile up majorities, Presley and Cortez and Tlaib. But you can only do it in your districts. You couldn't do it much of anywhere else, which should also be instructive to you. But I know it's not. And I think this is the point. You want to talk about Trump's imprecision with the language. How about these ladies? John Kennedy was on with Tucker last night. He's a Republican senator from Louisiana, and he had this to say about the whole inquisition over whether or not Trump is a racist.
I hesitate to contribute to this freak show, but I'll offer you my thoughts, Tucker, for what they're worth. I don't think President Trump is a racist. I don't think his original tweet was racist. I think it was a poor choice of words, which is why he clarified. What he has said now in clarification is that this is not China, this is America. And in America, if you hate our country, you're free to leave. Now, he said that in response to the behavior of the four congresswomen that you're talking about, the so-called squad. I'm not sure the president should exchange playground insults with them. When you try to argue with a fool, that proves they're two. But the president decided to do so. The simple fact of the matter is that the four congresswomen think that America was wicked in its origins. They think that America and its people are even more wicked now, that we are all racist and misogynistic and evil. Now, they're entitled to their opinion. They're Americans. But I'm entitled to my opinion, and I just think they're left-wing cranks, and They're the reason that their directions on a shampoo bottle. I think we should ignore them.
Oh, no, you didn't.
All right, John Kennedy. I got to get to this
Directions on a
piece. I want to get to Freddie Gray from the Spectator, but there's a piece in the Atlantic by Ibram Kendi, who is a professor and director, the Anti-Racist Research and Policy Center at the American University. The Anti-Racist Research and Policy Center. Who would name
What is
something like
that?
that? But this is the piece is "Am I an American?" And he is an American. He was born in New York. But it is this going back to Malcolm X, who famously said, "I'm not a Republican, nor a Democrat, nor an American," and I got sense enough to know it. The sort of black nationalist perspective. This obsessive, self-referential, victim-promoting perspective from a successful academic, obviously, as I just mentioned. Am I an American? Am I an American? You know, people like Trump say I'm not. No, we don't. No, we don't. And I tell you, even when Trump makes poor language choices, says things he shouldn't have said, as I think he did in this case, the left so far overreaches as to limit the potential damage Trump causes himself and, frankly, inflict more on themselves politically. And I think that's what raising the profile of the Socialist Spice Girls is doing as well. So hat tip to Gail King on that. For more on that topic, because he's written on it, we're pleased to be joined again by Freddie Gray, who's the deputy editor of The Spectator. Freddie Gray, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. So what about that? Even if you don't think Trump used the right words, made the right judgment call, does it seem like amplifying the 4 congresswomen in question is going to be a net political benefit to him and Republicans?
Well, I'd like to echo what that Mr. Kennedy said about hesitating to contribute to this freak show, but I suppose I already have, so I should stick with it. I mean, I think there's a lot of Republicans who seem to be saying that it's actually quite smart and that it puts the freak show of the squad, or as you're calling them, Socialist Spice Girls, front and center of the media, and that because they are just so annoying, really, they will put off far more voters than are put off by Trump's sort of edgy tweets. I think there is some truth in this, but again, I sometimes feel in 2016, everybody, to misquote the usual suspects, that they thought that Trump was no, I'm not going to completely misquote it, but Trump convinced the world that he was an idiot when he wasn't. I think now there's a slight danger on the right that people think he's being a genius when he isn't necessarily.
Yes.
Because let's face it, in 2020, the Socialist Spice Girls are going to fade out the picture, and it is going to be a single Democratic figure, a single Democratic nominee. And does Trump benefit from this? I'm not entirely sure.
Do people in London, are they talking about this? Do they know what's going on here in America on this latest Twitter spat between President Trump and the Spice Girls?
Oh, yes, certainly. I mean, Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt, who are both trying to be prime minister, have had to come out and condemn him for his deeply offensive and racist remarks. I mean, you may think you have a kind of media monoculture in America, but it's far worse here. And obviously everyone here is saying the same thing every week.
Boris Johnson's sort of living in a glass house, isn't he? I mean, if we want to get into the business of condemning, behavior, if not comments, Boris Johnson sort of has some exposure on the topic. I know he's got to do it because he's in the process of his ascension to 10 Downing. But come on.
No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, Boris has had a very colourful history with words, and a lot of people like to compare Boris and Trump. In fact, I've done it a fair bit myself because they make quite an interesting comparison.
Well, yeah, I wanted to build on that, so I'm glad you segued to Boris. So, assuming that he is installed as prime minister, what's the relationship between them going to be like? Does it really substantively change the UK's trajectory with respect to Brexit or its relationship with the United States?
Well, I'm pretty optimistic about it in a way that I haven't been optimistic about Brexit for a long time, because I think that if Boris Johnson becomes Prime Minister, which seems almost inevitable now, something's got to give, something's got to change. And a key part of that might be a much healthier relationship with the United States. Theresa May, the last Prime Minister, sort of shunned Trump a lot because she found him too politically toxic. She couldn't really deal with him. And he was very enthusiastic about Brexit and enthusiastic about the idea of Britain and America forming a closer alliance after Brexit. Boris doesn't have the same hang-ups, and he's always seen the upsides of Trump and the advantages of Trump. So I think, as a kind of Englishman who loves America, I feel quite optimistic that this could be a good time for relations between America and Britain.
Oh, and do you think anything is going to happen because of those leaked diplomatic cables that showed the British ambassador what he really thinks of President Trump? Is that going to affect their relationship?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the ambassador's now resigned. I think it'll be interesting to see who Boris appoints. Does he go for a political figure? We tend to have fewer political ambassadors in Britain, but we have done it in the past. Does he go for a kind of Trumpist type figure or a Trump-light figure, as a lot of people speculating he will? I think the resignations for Kim actually just gives an opportunity to reset Anglo-American relations. And one thing I like about Boris actually is that when he was Foreign Secretary, he banned the use of the term special relationship, because he thought it made Britain sound needy. And I think that's true. I think we do sound like a kind of neurotic ex-wife when we keep banging on about special relationship.
Well,
and just we need you to keep telling us that we're special, because otherwise we don't feel special.
Never quite thought about it that way, but okay, I can see the point. But the other thing that's advantageous for Trump, it would seem, if they do have this relationship that you are hoping they do, is in advance of the 2020 election, they've got somebody who may be more publicly positive about Trump and give lie to some of the hysterics from the left, like Joe Biden suggesting if Trump gets reelected, that's the end of NATO. And it would not just be Trump saying how ridiculous that is, but perhaps somebody like the future Prime Minister of Britain saying the same.
Yes, I suppose the difficulty for Boris will be, again, the media monoculture is so powerful here that even though quite a few people are sympathetic to Trump, the only thing he'll get in relation to Trump is journalists asking him if he'll denounce the president for saying this or for saying that. So
Right.
he'll have to tread a delicate balance between kind of praising Trump when he does something good and then not being seen to kind of join in with what a lot of people in Britain assume is a sort of racist position.
He is Freddie Gray. He's the deputy editor of the Spectator, spectator.us. You can check out his pieces on the Trump tweet controversy, as well as the forthcoming prime ministership of Boris Johnson. Freddie, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, great pleasure.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM